Howdy, my name is Amarie Galr, and I did my project over the Developmental Coordination Disorder Questionnaire, which is also known as the DCDQ. The DCDQ is a 15-question parent questionnaire which assesses different gross and fine motor skills on a 5-point scale. On this 5-point scale, 5 is categorized as being extremely like your child and 1 not being at all like your child. The DCDQ serves to identify potential signs of the developmental coordination disorder seen in children or adolescents. This is important because the developmental coordination disorder is a prevalent neurological disorder that can often go unnoticed if not properly assessed. And DCD can interfere with a child's behavior, their daily learning skills, and their learning. The items used in this questionnaire aren't many because the questionnaire serves to replicate as many daily living skills as possible. And so most of these things I was able to find around my house, like a ball, a bat, paper, writing instruments, and scissors. And then this test is a widely accepted test internationally, and it takes about 5 to 15 minutes to be fully completed. And then just to support the claim that it's widely acceptable, I looked into a study done by 651 Czech students. They range from the age of 5 years old to 15 years old, and then they were just assessed based on how well they've could do the tasks that were on the DCDQ. The reliability was pretty strong. The correlation between general coordination and control movements was pretty high. It was at 0.87, which the goal is 1. And so really anything close to 1 is ideal. And as we can see, this is high, especially with so many students being used in this study. This just proves that the DCDQ is of high reliability and validity due to the satisfactory results. Then here, this is my participant. His name is Christian Greer. He's my little half brother. He's a white male that's 7 years old. He'll turn 8 in October later this year. And then this is what the developmental coordination disorder questionnaire, this is what it looks like. Ideally, you will hand the questionnaire to the parent's child and they will fill out everything. For more accurate data, you would want to hand it to both the mom and the dad, just because they're seeing different things. And so that will just help you a lot. In this case, I only gave it to Christian's dad, who is my stepdad, and he filled it out for him. And so
Nice.
videos, you can see that Christian is throwing, catching, and striking. So we're testing his gross motor coordination. It helps a lot that he is in baseball season. So that really refined his skills a lot. And this leftmost video is throwing. His arm is opposite of the foot that's out, and he has a pretty good aim. He hit me in this video, actually. He extends his arm pretty well, but he can release with more extension, in my opinion. And then he can also work on having more of a torso rotation. But since he's only 7, it's not the biggest deal in the world. That's just ways he can refine it to get better at baseball. This middle video with him catching, you can see he's not afraid from the ball and he doesn't try to catch it with underarms, with his hands under the ball, but his hands stay over the ball, and once the ball is in his reach, he interlaces his fingers and he grabs it with his eye staying on the ball. And in striking, he's in baseball season, so he does this pretty often. In this rightmost video, he keeps his eye on the ball. He rotates his torso. He can work on keeping his foot planted, but he just gets really excited. And so it was most of these skills were pretty good overall, especially with him just being 8, just like little nitty gritty details just to better himself in baseball. And then in these videos, you can also see my little sister, Emma, which is just funny comparing their skills because Christian's better gross with his gross motor skills, and Emma's definitely better with her fine motor skills. But that's besides the point. In the leftmost video, he's jumping over different objects on the ground. These are just his toys around the house. As you can see, he can pretty much jump up and out. He lands on both feet pretty easily, and he uses his arm as momentum to get him there. And then this middle video, he's running. He loves to run, and so this was a lot of fun for him. And as you can see, his arms are opposite of the foot that is out. My biggest recommendation for him is really just to lean forward instead of backwards, just to move. Or just to help his body move in the direction that he's going. But other than that, it was really awesome for his age. And then finally, in this last video, it's really long, but he just goes through the playground, different obstacles, and he can do that fairly easily. And then these last couple of videos really test his fine motor skills. In this leftmost video, he was drawing himself in a banana, but as you can see with his grip, it's not too tight, but it's also not too loose. He kind of uses his shoulder to draw. So just working on more precision with his wrist movement will work in his favor. And then you can kind of see this when he's writing his name. He starts off with lowercase letters, which he definitely just learned in school because he did not know that when I went home the last time. But then towards the end, he just reverted back to the ways he knew, which is uppercase letters. It's not the most legible, but he got it done. And then in this final video, he's just cutting the square, and he did that a pretty good job of it. He just like cut a small corner, but nothing too obvious, nothing terrible. And then finally, in this last video, Christian is putting on his shoes. He doesn't know how to tie his shoes just yet, but he can dress himself and put on the shoes with the Velcro laces pretty easily.
Okay.
And then here are the results. Those are just my little critiques in the video, but this is what my stepdad Sean gave him. For the most part, like I said, his gross motor skills are really well. In the portion, he got a total of 26 points out of 30. And then for the fine motor skills, he can definitely use a lot more refinement on that. It was more in the mid range compared to the gross motor skills where they were mid to high. He got a total of 13 out of 20. And then his general coordination, he got a total of 21 points out of 25. And then all of that just equals up to 60 points out of 75. And if you look at the bottom of the DCDQ, for his age, having that high of a score is probably not an indication of DCD. And then my recommendations for Christian, I was just really picky on him, but that's just because he's my brother, is just to keep him active and keep him participating in youth sports, just to refine some of those skills. And then just with practice and being active, he'll actually learn those sports specific skills that will better help him when he is competing. And then the fine motor skills are really what he needs to work on. So anything where he can use small and precise movements will help him, like tracing activities, especially with the letters. He can use that a lot to just make his handwriting more legible. But as you can see in the chart, there's a bunch of different games that he can play just to work on those fine motor skills. And then in the right-hand side is a chart I found in my references, which basically states just any activities that that age range should be able to participate. And so Christian's pretty good. And the only thing is really being able to tie his shoelace by himself, but he's still working on that. The purpose of this presentation is to evaluate assessments in motor development and to actually practice them. And so here, I just use the DCDQ and use Christian as my subject and practice that assessment on him. And then with that assessment, we're able to create plans to facilitate motor development, especially if we're able to catch it early on. We can help him practice to work in a way where he has a pretty good general coordination. And then lastly, we're also able to recognize different motor disorders in different populations and give them the proper plans to help them be as independent as possible with general coordination. And then here are the references that I use for this project. And then that's all I have today. So thank you for listening and have a good one.